Hi there, welcome to what's happening in Brazil. Let's start with the latest news from the country.
Podcaster Monark caused outrage by defending, during a live stream, the creation of a Nazi party in Brazil. Besides Monark, federal deputies Tabata Amaral, who refuted the podcaster's arguments, and Kim Kataguiri, who agreed that Nazism should not be criminalized, made part of the talk too. To the two men, it's a matter of freedom of expression. The video had repercussions on social media and in the Brazilian Jewish community. The podcast lost sponsors and Monark ended up out of the Flow podcast. The New York Times reported on the case, comparing Monark to the anti-vax podcaster Joe Rogan. Kim Kataguiri, in his turn, became the target of impeachment and resignation requests in the National Congress. He became known in 2015 as one of the leaders of the far-right movement Brasil Livre, Free Brazil. In 2018, the group supported Jair Bolsonaro's candidacy. In February, Brazil returned to reach 1,000 daily deaths from COVID. The 7-day death average reached 951 on February 11th, the worst since August 2021. In the first days of this year, the rate was below 100. Although people are getting vaccinated and the Omicron variant be considered less lethal than other variants, the high number of people contaminated rose the average of deaths. Since the beginning of the pandemic, Brazil recorded 27 million cases. The spreading of the Omicron variant made authorities cancel the street carnival and the Samba schools parade for the second consecutive year. However, shops, bars, and restaurants keep on normally open in most of the country's cities. Despite criticisms by President Jair Bolsonaro, some states and cities made mandatory the COVID-19 vaccination card to access some places and events.
With the economic crisis, many Brazilians are homeless and end up having to live on the streets. That's a visible reality on sidewalks and squares of the city of São Paulo. In the following news story, you are going to listen to the stories of some people who are living on the streets of the biggest Brazilian city.
A gente mexia com reciclagem.
We used to work as collectors of recyclable materials and cardboard. While 1 kilo of these materials could be sold for R$1, we managed to pay room rent. But then the price of cardboard fell to 40 cents. We either pay the rent or eat.
In the city of São Paulo, Glauciele and Almir are two examples of the new profile of homeless people during the pandemic. People who are on the streets for the first time in their lives.
Nunca imaginava.
I never imagined this. The reality is cruel. You can't even think of leaving the place for a while, or you're gonna lose the little you have.
According to data from São Paulo City Hall, almost 32,000 people are living on the streets. It represents a 31% rise in the last 2 years. To some movements, this figure can be even bigger. Artist and sex worker Kundalini has been living on the streets for a month.
E minha mãe falou pra mim, eu não quero te ver morta.
My mother said to me, I don't want you to die. And I'm not gonna die. I am not. That's how I try to emphasize myself as a queer person who will keep on living. I'm gonna surpass 35 years old.
1 year ago, Antonio was fired from his job as hot carrier. Today, he and a colleague with who he worked have been sleeping under the marquee. They try to save some money to rent a room.
Durante o dia nós vamos para os bairros.
During the day, we go to the neighborhoods, and during the night, we collect cardboard here, because there's a lot of it here. Some people want to keep begging, but we don't. We want to work, to provide for ourselves, so as not to beg.
O medo maior é a discriminação das pessoas, na realidade.
My biggest fear is the discrimination people have against me. Some homeless people help you with blankets or any other thing you need, but the way people look at us is the worst thing.
Samba is one of the traditional cultures that represents Brazil the most. Mainly recalled as a typical manifestation of Rio de Janeiro, Samba also has a long story in other states, as in Pernambuco. Now a group of researchers make efforts to review this memory.
When we talk about Pernambuco, we immediately think of frevo. the fast and frantic rhythm that commands the street carnivals in the cities of Recife and Olinda. But some researchers have struggled to spread that, in addition to frevo, Pernambuco is also a place of samba. In a 19th century newspaper, samba was mentioned as a cultural manifestation typically from Pernambuco.
I started to feel very bothered with the relationship the governments had with samba here in Pernambuco, and that instigates me a lot. How does one have a musical expression that was silenced? We don't have any record of those samba songs from the 19th century.
And was to guarantee this memory that Gabi released The Mapping of the Samba Makers, a documentary movie that collects the stories of those who make samba in Pernambuco state.
Inclusive, a primeira estrofe do samba foi eu que fiz. Andam dizendo que a nossa escola se acabou.
But why Pernambuco samba was silenced?
Pernambuco's intellectuality strongly defended a Pernambucan identity, mainly because of Pernambuco's regionalist movement headed by Gilberto Freire. So these intellectuals realized that if our things here are better, why are we importing an artistic expression that invades our space? But it wasn't an invasion.
Even with this movement in defense of frevo as the only genuine heritage of Pernambuco's culture, the state of Pernambuco molded samba into its own style.
We can say that that's a more wiggled samba. It has more rhythmic divisions and more emphasis. It's not divided into traditional binarism, and we introduced other musical instruments.
And now it's time for Brazilianese.
Are you listening to the rain? Are you seeing this table full of ingredients? Today's recipe is another Parás classical dish. Actually, that's a classical Amazonian dish, fish stew. You can use any type of flour you want, but the original recipe uses farinha d'água, made from fermented manioc flour dough. It has a slightly sour taste and is used to season the broth. In a pan, you're gonna braise the onion, bell pepper, and chopped cilantro stalks. Add salt and a little bit of ajuma pepper. Braise them all until the ingredients turn brown. Add sliced garlic and annatto powder. Let the garlic release its flavor and the annatto transfer its color. Add diced tomato and braise the ingredients a little more. Pour a lot of water and let it boil for 5 minutes. Add the fish heads and wait for 5 minutes. Then you're gonna add potatoes and wait for another 5 minutes. Now add the shayade, plantain, banana, and green corn and wait for 5 minutes again. Put tomato, onion, and bell pepper. This time they have to be chopped into big pieces. Add the fish and this vegetable called alfavaca in Portuguese. The mix of coriander and crushed black pepper, and then mix them all and let them cook for 8 minutes. While the stew is finishing cooking, I'm gonna make the sauce to accompany the dish. It has comori pepper from Pará, a fragrant pepper, lime juice, and salt. That's all. Flour time. You're gonna add a little bit of flour and stir. Put the cooked eggs without the shell. Add the rest of the ajuma pepper, hot pepper, and a lot of cilantro.
You like the show? So hit the like button and share with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to receive notifications. We'll see you next week.